Greetings and welcome into Not All There. I am Chad. This is my podcast, and I have lots of exciting news. First, hard to believe. It's really fucking wild, but the Not All There podcast is 2 years old. That's right, 2 years of this. Sometimes I feel like I've been doing it forever. Other times I feel like I just started yesterday. So this is really exciting. This part of my journey in life, this path, if you will, has been very rewarding in ways I didn't expect. I was hopeful that it would turn into something, but honestly, when I started this, it was just as an artistic outlet and something fun to do with my sober friends. And it has led me to places that I didn't think were possible and opened, like I mentioned, open doors. I've met lots of people. I have soberchad.com, the sober coaching, and I have a nonprofit, the Art of Recovery Foundation, the artofrecoveryfoundation.org. And I've got something very exciting that I'm working on right now. And I'm over the moon about it. I'm actually kind of floored that it's coming together, but it's a site. It's going to be people refer to it as a digital ecosystem, whatever. It's going to be a living place where people can go and consume recovery themed content. It is called Limbic. The website is limbic.org. The website's in its infant stages at the moment, but we're building it out and going to be adding more and more content. I'm making plans and setting things up to have a cooking show about sober entertaining, having a sober travel show, which is going to be great. We're going to have artist content. We're going to have wellness content, yoga, breathing exercises. I mean, it is going to be very vast, and I can't believe it's actually happening. Limbic.org. Check it out. Spread the word. And if you or anyone you know is of the artistic sort and is in recovery and would like to find out more about this, have them reach out to me at Chad at soberchad.com, Chad at soberchad.com. And maybe we can find a place to have them submit work to put on the website. Anyway, it's all very exciting. It is like I said, it's growing. It's an organic thing, and it's going to be changing and evolving. As I like to say, as you evolve, your recovery needs to evolve too, and that's the whole motivation behind this website, this platform, and yeah. It's going to be fun. All right. Today I am talking with Nikki Munitz, and it is a fantastic conversation. Nikki is right now, she lives in Cape Town, South Africa, grew up in Johannesburg, and she has quite a story from upper middle class family to prison to now writing a book and helping tons and tons of people. We had a blast talking, and I think we both agree that we would like to collaborate some way outside of the podcast. So look out for that as well. And okay, that's enough of me rambling. I'm getting out of the way, and please do enjoy my conversation with Nikki Munitz. So I'm late to the game with like TikTok and doing social media stuff for the work that I do. And I woke up real cranky today, and I had this really stupid fight with my wife over the phone. And I decided that, I needed a distraction to pull me out of this like asshole mode that I'd found myself in. And I posed a question to people on TikTok, is that now that you're sober, right? Which one of these three things would you choose to give up in your sobriety? And the choices were ice cream, seltzer, fizzy water, or coffee. That's tough. What would you do?
I'm gonna actually say ice cream, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I know.
I was a downer kind of girl, so coffee was never gonna be my thing.
Oh. Fair enough. Okay. Nikki, you got to help me real quick. How do I properly pronounce your last name?
My surname is Munitz,
Munitz.
of Munitz, yeah. So
Okay.
of German descent.
All right. Excellent. Perfect. Well, I am joined here by Nikki Munitz, and you are in what part of South Africa are you in right now?
I'm in Cape Town in South Africa,
Okay.
the
Well,
most beautiful part.
see, she's selling us all on the fact that we need to go visit, and only I'm allowed to stay. Um, so, I was really intrigued by researching you. We kind of connected on LinkedIn, and then I read a little bit about who you are and what you're doing and what led you to do the work that you're doing. And I have to say, it's pretty amazing. And to turn your life over in that way, to give back, to help people get through all of the shit that you had to get through, it speaks perfectly clear to the work that I am doing. I consider myself a lucky one to be alive, that I made it through all that I did. And now that I'm standing here, what do I do? And it's like, well, let's not let people suffer like I did. And so let's start from the beginning, shall we? Mm-hmm. So tell us just a little bit. I like to qualify people who are in recovery, just to sort of let people know who we are talking with and what the journey was like to get to where you are. So where did it all begin?
I love that word qualify, because I certainly spent a good chunk of my life qualifying. So, I mean, I think if you had met me in childhood, I probably would have been voted least likely to turn into a drug addict.
Yeah, me
I
too.
grew up in a privileged middle class Jewish family, and I went to a private school. I mean, aside from my father passing away just before I turned 10, there wasn't really anything in my life that was significantly, that stood out, that would take me down any negative road. I had a lot of friends. I did really well academically. I excelled in sport. I was just like a good kid.
Yeah.
But that was kind of what I showed to everybody on the outside.
Uh-huh.
Was not matching the inside, not
No,
even
we present
close.
well. We present well, but it's it's that smiley face you put on. So tell
Yeah.
us about what was going on inside.
And when I tell people the story about my addiction, I always think about, the drugs that I took. But essentially my using really, I think, started when I was about 14 with alcohol,
Yeah.
and it was that feeling of I could breathe, I could just relax. There was something that allowed me to take the edge off. I was really kind of tightly wound, and anxious, I suppose. And alcohol really helped me navigate that, well, helped me in its way. And that progressed. And my eldest brother is an addict. And so I really never thought I would ever do that to myself. I grew up in tough love meetings with my mother. I knew about NA. I watched my brother having his stomach pumped numerous times, and I really thought, what an idiot. Like, why would anybody do that to themselves? That's so dumb.
Right. I have uncles and aunts. I have an older brother that's an addict as well. And that was was like, Jesus, what is he doing? No, I'm never going to drink. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I too was like very straight laced and presented well on the outside, but on the inside, it was a hot fucking mess.
Totally.
So, yeah, I think that there are a lot of us like that.
But I mean, one of the things that I got told, and I don't know if it was the same for you, so it was that marijuana was a gateway drug.
It was alcohol first, and then well, yeah. So once I picked up the pipe, then all kinds of stuff started coming in. So yeah, I would say that
I really believed that if I didn't smoke weed, that I'd be fine. I could do everything else. And as long as I didn't use marijuana, like nothing bad would happen. And so while all my friends were smoking, I would already escalate. I was doing ecstasy, I was doing MDMA, I was doing the party drugs, and I was having a good time. I think, like, for the most part during the week at school, I was okay. Weekends were already out of hand. Boys were coming into the picture, and I kind of, my marks plummeted, but never to the point where anyone was deeply concerned. I also had an eating disorder, but I wasn't so skinny that anyone would look at me and think, oh, that's not healthy. So because I didn't look like it on the outside, it just got ignored.
Well, it's that high functioning aspect that a lot of us put on. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, your marks suffer, but not enough. They're probably just like, oh, it's just a phase, right? She's
Yeah.
got friends, this
Teenager.
teenager, right? Well, maybe she's a little thin, but she's in sports, so it's okay.
Mm,
And
mm.
and it's just enough to kind of fly under the radar until it's not.
Sure. And then on when I finished school, just as I finished school, I went on a vacation with all of my friends. And it was on that holiday that I got introduced to cocaine. And I say I'm a Downers girl, but really, like, I quite loved the cocaine a
Oh
lot.
man, I do too.
It gave me this confidence. I felt like the queen bee. I was like, oh, she's arrived.
Yes, I know exactly how that feels. So how old are you at this point when this kicks in?
17.
17. Jesus. Okay.
Mm.
And away we go. All right. So okay, I'm always curious. How did you get introduced to cocaine?
On this like trip, this another girlfriend of mine went out and she was in like this boy. And of course, the boy says, why don't you try this? Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Always does. I mistakenly bought my first 8 ball of cocaine. I thought I was buying weed and it was really stupid. And we were like handing money under the table. I handed him the money and he plopped something in my hand. And I was like, that's not weed. And I went to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, well, okay. I guess we're doing cocaine
We're
today.
here now.
Not like, hey, can I give this back to you? It's just like, okay, well, here we go. So the worm turned at that point, right? So the cocaine, how often were you doing that?
So, I mean, life shifted so quickly on that vacation where, I had 3 girlfriends. We were really close the whole of high school. And on that holiday, they were starting to say to me, something's getting out of hand here. It's not just fun. You're not just partying. Like, it's not okay. And of course, like the logical thing would have been to listen to these people who loved me and cared about me. But instead, my response was like, I think I need new friends.
Yeah. It's always, it's always the group that's the worst. Like, oh, come on. No. Yeah. So, okay. So we're on the lookout for new friends.
On the lookout for new friends. I came back from the holiday. I went straight into university. I was waitressing at the time, and I was using as much cocaine as I possibly could. And I was drinking quite excessively at the time. There was a pub on campus, and so any lecture that was after 11 a.m. in the morning never saw me because that was when the pub opened. And of course, in order to drink more, I needed to use Coke. I'm not a tall person, so my limit was pretty low. In order to like not pass out quite early into the evening. I needed a little help. And so the cocaine escalated really quickly. Even my time frames are like a bit wonky in my own head because I got introduced to heroin quite quickly after that too.
Now you get introduced to it. And I'm always curious how, because I have a family member that had a heroin addiction that I didn't know about. And I have a dark sense of humor. So I just wanted to know, like, well, how did you do it? Did you snort it? Did you shoot it?
I did.
Smoke it? So what was it? The first time it's in front of you, how do you take it? How do you put it in?
So I snorted it the first time.
Snorted it, okay.
It was a guy that I was working at a restaurant with. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's heroin. And I was like, I can't do heroin. That's hectic. Cocaine is totally fine, but I can't do heroin.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And he just said, all that shit you've seen in the movies, it's not true. It's not real. Like, it's really not that bad. Like, just try it. You get really like, you hang quite badly with the Coke, and this will help you come down, and then you'll be able to go to sleep, and you can get up tomorrow and function. It seemed like, I mean, his sales tactic was brilliant.
I would have done it.
The interesting part for me, for anyone that's ever done heroin, especially the first time, it makes you really sick, like really sick. Okay. I was like violently ill the first time.
Jesus.
And I persevered. I was like,
you're a proper addict, right? So
it must be.
Like I would drink and smoke and ingest anything until I would puke. And then I would like wash my mouth, splash some water on my face, and keep going. And that is addiction in like a perfect little microcosm. Is like, yeah, I did heroin for the first time and it made me violently ill, but yet part of your story is you had this addiction to heroin. So like what led you back to it? I mean, you have this experience and obviously you kept going.
So again, I could go to sleep after, a night of a cocaine binge, whereas before I would have been looking for the next thing I could sell, or, who I could, pull a move with, or, and so I really liked that, that I could have a night out and I could use heroin and I could go to sleep. And for the most part, I could get up and function. Except what he didn't tell me was that using 3 days in a row would leave me in physical withdrawal.
Whoops.
Oops. An important detail.
Yeah, the fine print that they forget to, announce. So, okay, now wow. All right. Because you went on to have a career and a life outside of university, and this whole time were you taking heroin, or were there breaks in between? Because if there wasn't, I'm always fascinated how we can make our lives seem quote unquote normal or average while we're in the throes of this awful addiction.
My life was very far from that. And for a very long time, I was in rehab. The first time I turned 18 in rehab. My mother also had tried a geographical with me. She sent me to visit my brother who lived in Australia. I arrived within an hour. I figured out where to buy drugs. I came back in the same withdrawal that I left in. And so I got kicked out of university because I obviously just wasn't passing, and my life was a mess. Eventually, when I was 20, I got fired from this restaurant that I was waitressing at. The manager of the restaurant told me, you can't serve food to people looking the way that you do. I don't know what the equivalent is, but I weighed 37 kilos. So it was really skinny.
That's very small. That's
and I thought I looked great. I was like, oh, look at me. I'm like a rock star.
Look at this waist.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So,
yeah. So then my mom, I had been in treatment and I'd been kicked out of treatment. I think when I got kicked out of treatment, the counselor there called my mom up and said she's constitutionally incapable of being honest, was my discharge.
Whoa, so you're one of those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I broke every rule known to mankind.
Constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. That's, for those that know what that means, that's like, geez, that's the defect to end all defects. So, okay, you get ejected from rehab for that.
Yeah. And then because I was really ill, I had met somebody while I was in the NA fellowship in Cape Town, because I didn't live in Cape Town at the time, but my mother had sent me to treatment there. And this guy happened to see me one day, and obviously I looked really sick, and he called my mom and he said, your daughter's not going to survive. She really needs help. And so my mother came down to Cape Town and she took me to a hotel for the weekend. And of course, I used the whole time while I was in the hotel. And then she said to me, you really need to go back to treatment or you're not going to live. And I said, that's great. I know there's some really nice places out by the beach. And she was like, no, we're not going to do that again. And she sent me to this boot camp treatment center. And the agreement was that I needed to do a year in treatment or I wasn't allowed to come home. And where other people were like devastated to be in this facility, I was so relieved to have a bed to sleep in and 3 meals a day that I felt like I was in heaven. But I was 20, I turned 21 there. And of course, at 21, we think we're really wise, but we're not quite yet. And so my solution to my problem was, to meet somebody. And I thought if I got married and had my own family, like that would be the answer for me. And so this was a really Christian facility. And so I met this guy, me and my nice little Jewish girl self, met this nice Christian boy in rehab. And we got together, and his proposal to me essentially was, we can't live in sin, so either we need to break up or get married. And I was like, no, let's get married. That seems like a great idea.
It sounds very familiar to what I did at 21. Yeah.
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 And essentially I stayed clean for almost 8 years like that. And I had 2 kids, and I tell people I was playing house. I played house really well.
Yeah. Yeah. We do, don't we?
Yeah.
Um,
And then when we relapsed after that, it was just spectacular,
did you
because
both
now they were.
relapse together?
Mm,
Oh, shit. Okay. So, um, you went to prison. Yeah.
I did.
Cool. So what happened?
So during this relapse, the post 8 years, they're now married with 2 kids.
And you're
relapse.
almost 30, right? Close. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I worked for an attorney, and I had access to the trust account. And access to a trust account together with the heroin addiction is just not a great combination. And so, I was helping myself to money in the trust account, always in my mind saying, I'll put it back, I'll put it back, I'll put it back.
Of course.
And 6 months went by, and I often think to myself, like, how did they not have any checks in place? How did I get away with it for 6 months? I don't even know.
That seems like an exceptionally long time.
And eventually I got caught, and my court case dragged on and on. And during that period, I got clean again, and decided that I really wanted to work in the treatment industry. My marriage had been really abusive, and I wanted to essentially help other women who'd been in similar situations. And so during my process of getting clean, I got a job at a treatment center, and they were training me, and I worked my way up to senior counselor, and my life was amazing. And I just thought, there's no way that God would send me to jail, because I've already turned my life around,
That's the thing.
And I landed up going to jail when I was 8 years clean.
Oh, fuck. How long were you in for?
So initially I got sentenced to 8 years. And my lawyers just kept on fighting for me. So I landed up going into prison. I was there for 2.5 months. Then I got bail again. So I came out while they carried on fighting for me. My case went to constitutional court, and I eventually they reduced my sentence to a 3-year. So in the end, I served 10.5 months inside, and the rest under house arrest.
Whew. So what was prison like? Especially as a sober person.
Well, I think prison in general is pretty bad, but prison in South Africa is not a pretty place. I'm not gonna lie. We are a third world country. And so it's dodgy.
Way around the globe. So yeah. Wow. Were you ever in danger when you were in there?
Yes, I think so. But also, the reality, and I'm sure most prisons are the same, if you have money, you kind of are okay.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And what did was I can't explain it any way else besides divine intervention. So I got a job, I think probably in my first 2 weeks of arriving in prison. And I got a job which was working for 2 captains at the main gate. A main gate, as a new prisoner, you're a security risk, so you're actually not allowed there. And the way that I got the job, there was a girl who was leaving on parole, and they'd asked her to find someone to replace her. And she'd come to me and she said, I don't know why. I know you're brand new, but there's something about you that's different to everybody else. And I'm going to put your name forward. I don't know whether they're going to accept it or not. And I was like, okay, great. And so I wasn't actually with general population during the day, only from the afternoon lockup.
Wow.
I got to be a maid, essentially, for these 2 captains. I cooked and cleaned, and, it kept me busy.
Yeah.
And I never necessarily felt at risk of using, although there was a lot of drugs in prison, but I also don't know what would have happened if I was bored and idle and sitting around all day long like everybody else was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you get out, and what was the reintegration like for you?
Sure. I thought that the difficult part was facing prison, but the difficult part was coming out, because I felt like a soldier with no war. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself now.
And was it difficult for you to reestablish a life, as far as, a place to live, gaining employment, et cetera, et cetera? And
So because I had worked at this treatment center before I went into prison, I mean, they supported me while I went to prison. They paid my salary,
oh
they
shit.
kept my job. Yeah, I really I was well taken care of in that regard. But I also did a course while I was in prison on self-esteem.
Hmm.
And it was like finding the Holy Grail. I was like, oh, wow,
Let's
this is
dive,
the missing piece.
let's dive into that, because self-esteem and insecurity, there's self-confidence, but their self-confidence can be kind of manipulated with, the way you dress and kind of a social presentation, but it's
Mhm.
the self-esteem and the insecurities that aren't seen. And I struggle daily with that. In fact, that was kind of why I was acting the way I was today. It was insecurities and self-esteem. Like, I'm very fortunate to be like here talking with you, and there's other things that projects that I'm working on and creating. And it's like, I can't believe that I'm actually doing this stuff. And then I have those moments where like, oh, the self-sabotage essentially is what we like to describe it as. But really what that comes down to is it's self-esteem and it's these insecurities that I have. And so
Mm.
what did you learn in this course, and how did you apply it to yourself, and by extension, take it to the streets, as we would like to say?
So I learned initially, I also used to think that self-esteem was just really about a confidence thing, but confidence is one small part of what self-esteem is actually about. The
Exactly.
other elements are my ability to communicate assertively,
Mm.
to actually live in a space of self-love that I actually feel worthy and deserving and valuable as a human being. Because I always felt like I needed to work to earn love, to earn having a right to exist as such. And all the areas that get impacted by my lack of self-esteem, from issues around body image, or being able to deal with my feelings effectively, or issues around self-discipline or self-talk, or creating meaningful connections, or balance in my life, or like vision and purpose, and like so many others. And I looked at this and I was like, whoa, that's my whole life. Like I now get it. It all makes sense to me.
So what did you do with that? I mean,
So
you've been saying that. I'm like, whoa, my
yeah.
God. I've had to work really hard to
Yeah.
find and understand those aspects of myself. And again, I'm lucky because I was able to find it.
Mm.
And the fact that you had that course in prison is really, well, God, higher power, universe, whatever you say, works in
Totally.
funny ways, man. And here you are, and you get this blessing, right, of this course. So how did it change your life in prison? And then once you got out, how did it allow you to, get to where you are?
So I came out of prison and I really wanted to learn more because obviously I was already a counselor. I was working in probably one
Yeah.
of the most prestigious treatment centers in South Africa.
Mhm.
And I wanted to learn about self-esteem so that I could teach it to my clients, like that was in my mind. And I eventually managed to find the woman who designed the original course that they were presenting in prison. And I went to her and I said, I want you to teach me. I want you to show me how to do this. And she said, that's amazing. How noble, brilliant. I'm totally going to do that. But we're going to first work on your self-esteem. And then once your self-esteem is intact, then you can start sharing it with others. And I was like,
What?
oh.
What do you mean? I have figured it out. Oh,
So for 2 years, she worked with me. And like you said, when I came out of prison, like I was at war with myself.
yeah. How can you
I
not
was
be?
pretty lost.
Well, I guess you could say you were fortunate to have, the roles that you did in prison
Mm,
that did keep you from that
mm,
isolation and that idle hands, idle time.
yeah,
But you must have been in some sort of like survival mode, constantly guarded,
totally.
right?
Hmm.
And you can't unlock from that. Just you walk out the door, the gates, what have you, of the prison, and that doesn't turn off. And it doesn't turn off unless you find it, and like it's hard to turn that off. So
Hmm.
during this training, I guess, this work that you did with the person who created this program, what did you What did you find out about yourself?
Well, I found out that I really, if I had to explain to people how little I valued myself. I mean, I was clean. I was over 8 years clean. I had this great job. People loved me, but on the inside, I didn't love myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so that impacted every decision that I made, and I loved how well I did at work, but I was working these crazy hours because I wanted to be validated. And I put myself out there and I moved my own boundaries. And, I really was not living life for me at all.
What was it that made you understand that you weren't loving yourself even a little bit? Because that's
Well,
a huge issue for
yeah.
me, is the self-acceptance,
Mm.
the self-acknowledgement, and the self-love, like looking at things that I'm doing in my life that are proving to be positive and having positive effects on other people. And like, I can say it into a microphone, but can I internalize it and feel it and like, embrace myself for it? No, I can't. And it always, that's to me, that is the one aspect of my recovery that I get it. There's a block, like it comes through sometimes, and I allow myself to embrace that. It's like, today we're going to try and love ourselves a little bit, and I'm able to get there, right? But much like you, I do stuff to busy myself, to not allow myself to sit with that. I'll allow myself to sit with emotions that maybe are, I wouldn't say negative, but sad. Usually it's like sadness and grief, whatever that might be. And I'll sit with that, but the love, the joy, the happiness that I should provide or allow myself to feel, I have a very difficult time with that. And, like having someone pay me a compliment, it's really hard. I now just say thank you. But do I really embrace that compliment? No, I just say thank you in passing, keep it moving. And I know that I'm not the only one. And what led you to that self-love, to open that up? And what do you do, to keep that open and flowing?
So I think how I really recognized it was that I was outsourcing. So I wanted other people to love me, even my clients. I was like, if I'm the best counselor in the whole world, then they will love me and then I will have value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to
Um,
that.
or if my children love me, then I'm valuable. Or if my husband loves me, then I'm valuable. If my boss gives me a raise, then I'm valuable. Like,
Oh,
and the truth is, we're valuable just because we exist. If I never had any of those things, if I never did any of those things, I would be as valuable as if I did it all.
that is so
And
powerful. That's
yeah.
so powerful, because, that's a message that I definitely needed to hear today. And if anything, you helped me out by saying that. And I think that, by people hearing this, we're going to help some people out with that as well. And, you know, I get caught up in a lot of stuff. My brain is kind of like a circus. Like, there's just a bunch of circus animals running around upstairs. And I do get caught up and forget to just be.
Mm.
And, it's challenging in today's society, at least here in the States, and I think it's pretty standard in a lot of places, is we move very fast. Everything's very instant, very quick, very instant gratification, and it's very difficult to just be within that. And what do you do? What do you find works for you? Or even better yet, what is a suggestion for someone to work on? They have a busy life, family, career, whatever, but what can they do to just be?
So I think that this is probably my biggest mission. And it's something that I don't always get right, but I really practice it as much as I can. The things that are important to me, I plan my diary around those things as opposed to fitting those things in when I can.
Hmm.
So I love horses. I ride horses and I put that into that's like really important. And my gym in the morning and my meditation time, like that's not negotiable. But my brand new addiction, which I swear by, and I like promote it as much as I can, I do this like sauna cold plunge,
Oh
which
God,
is
yes.
amazing.
Yes. So do you have a cold plunge at where you live, or do you go to the gym and do
Very near to where I live.
Yeah.
So I go to this place and it's actually like a community. So we go there and there's a coach that facilitates like with a theme, whether it's surrender or something. It's amazing. So 15 minutes in the sauna and 3 minutes in the cold plunge and then back into the sauna just to kind of tie it up. And it regulates my nervous system and I can
Yeah.
breathe and I can be
Yeah.
present.
It's
And
I
yeah.
I live right next to one of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, and I can like throw a football and have it land in the water out there. But I haven't done it in a while, but I have just like in the middle of winter, it's like frozen, and I'll just run out there and jump into it. And when I get back home, I'm just like, oh my God, I have never felt so calm. There's like being relaxed, but then there's being calm. Like you said, your nervous system, like everything is just as it should be. And you're like the third person in the past few days that's mentioned this, which tells me I'm gonna have to work that in. So so you're doing this work and you wrote a book. What led to the book? And what actually I should say, was this something that you had been considering, or did it just kind of pop up? And I will read the title of it. I had to write it down so I make sure I say it correctly. Fraud: How the Prison Set Me Free. Now, which prison are we talking about?
Exactly. It was always on my heart to write a book, but I think when I first thought about it, it was about wanting to tell everyone my story, the war story. And I initially started writing it when I was, I think, pregnant with my daughter, I was about 24 at the time. I didn't realize that there would be many more chapters to come after that. And when I eventually wrote the book, it was about giving hope to other people. It wasn't about telling my story.
Right.
And you're right about which prison, because although people want to know this, what was prison like, and tell us the stories, and of course we had to add some of that in, but I really wanted to make it relatable to people that everybody has their version of a prison that keeps them stuck.
Yep, we do.
And I really think that self-esteem is the key to unlock that. And we hold the key the whole time.
It's, what is the saying? I'm my own worst enemy, because it ties into that, because you're right. We put so much into what individuals, groups, communities think about us, and that's where our self-worth comes from. And, I hear people say it all the time. I say it, I try to be more aware of it, and I'm getting better, but it is still a challenge. And that saying is, well, if you would just do this, I would feel this. And that is completely putting it on the other person, right? When you have all the power to make yourself feel better, to feel good, to feel happy, to give yourself that self-pride, power, whatever you want to call it. But by not doing that, you're locking yourself into this prison. And as you age and gain more life experiences, like the cell gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's why people basically lose their fucking minds. I see it all the time. And that is really what started to inspire me to do the work that I do by doing this podcast initially as something fun to do. But it's turned into something else, and it's opened up a lot of different doors for me. And I understand now that I do have an ability to tell a story and share my experiences and talk to other people such as yourself. And we can have these really open conversations about what it's really like and what it was like for us. And it does make me feel good, but I don't know if I would consider myself a full-blown empath, but I definitely have empath tendencies, and oddly some sort of form of clairvoyance or something. My dreams are fucking insane. But it's been very awakening for me personally. But I also notice people that are trapped in this their own prison with this stuff. And it's people that you wouldn't think that are. People that present themselves in a certain way and position themselves in society or the corporate world as to be this figure. And they're nothing more than a frightened person that has a skill, but yet they're miserable. And they are the only one that can help unlock that misery. When you meet with clients and you get to this point, is there I don't know if a technique or a suggestion that you use that helps people to if not understand, but at least see this part of themselves that, oh, hey, wait, maybe I do have something to say about this. Maybe I do have control over it.
I think it takes time. We're so programmed. From the time we enter Earth's atmosphere, we're being programmed by other people's opinions of us. We're comparing ourselves and we are trying to fit into a mold, and we get taught that if you have the right job, the right house, the right car, the right partner, then all will be well. And then you get those things and you're like, shit, I still don't feel good. I must be broken. But the reality is it's none of those things that are going to make you feel good. And the example that I always use with people, we only need to look at Hollywood to know that that's not true.
Amen. Amen. Jesus.
Like, none of that shit is going to make you happy.
They are fucking cray out there. They are. God bless them. They entertain the hell out of me. But I've had the fortune of interacting with a few people in the world of Hollywood, and what a torturous life that must be it's painful to be that person. The reason they're so good at what they do is because they don't like being themselves. It's like, I will do everything within my power to be someone else because I can't sit alone or stand the person that I am on the inside. And, so many of them have these inner demons and battle addictions of all kinds but yet we will help to finance that because they do entertain us.
They do, and they're excellent at what they do. But if they realized how amazing they were as human beings, they probably would not be addicts and in pain and torment.
No, and they'd probably be fucking great actors or entertainers, whatever, they do. Oh my God. It's so true that, I have two kids, two boys. One is 13, one is almost 15. And we're really like hard on the social media aspect of things. Like, no, sorry. But even through that, we cannot, current cultures they penetrate any way that they can. And the shit that children these days are influenced and affected by, it scares the hell out of me. And I do feel fortunate and lucky that I've always been very open with my kids about my addictions. I started a men's group here at my house a little over 10 years ago. I got sober. I've been sober for about almost 11 and a half years now. And I couldn't make it to meetings. And my sponsor told me, like, well, why don't you just start your own fucking meeting? And I'm like, fine, I will. And so I did. Because, my wife was pissed at me. My kids were young. I had responsibilities that I needed to uphold or I was going to get stabbed. Not really, but sometimes I thought I might. And so I created this meeting, and it's turned into this community. I'm very proud of what it is. And my kids were always like, well, why are you going upstairs? What's upstairs? What's upstairs? One thing led to another. And eventually, I told them about, that I'm an alcoholic and drug addict. I'm in recovery. And then I just started telling them, not full blown stories, but yeah, they're like, so Dad, what drugs have you done? And I would tell them. And I was so open about it. One time my oldest son walked into the kitchen while I was doing dishes, and he's like, out of the blue, so Dad, how much cocaine have you done? And, he's like 12. I'm like, enough, man, enough. But what I'm getting at is that this openness, this comfort for our kids to want to know or even joke around with us, my wife and I, over these subjects, it allows us to be present in a way where we can help them understand that a lot of what you're seeing is not real and not true. But I don't know what can be done to help like nip that in the bud, because there's so many children that are going to be young adults, and adults are going to be completely ill prepared for life due to this almost like sheltered, naive existence that's portrayed to them, whether it is through Hollywood or TikToks, Instagram, YouTube, these realities that aren't real. And I don't know if you deal with or work with, I should say, young adults or children. I know that you said you're a mom, but what do you do when you are approached with, these false realities with younger people?
So it's interesting to me because there's so much in what you said, and that ability to communicate transparently, openly, honestly. I really believe it's what saved my children in spite of what they witnessed with me and what they lived through. They have turned out to be the most well-adjusted, incredible humans. And I think it was because we could talk about it.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was off limits. They could ask any questions that they wanted to.
And it really disarms anything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so what was it like? And you share some experience, that you've had, whether it was when you were using or in prison or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's it. Like it's
moving on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Like, but no, that was amazing.
Yeah. And I think that so many parents try and protect their children, but they don't realize they're actually protecting their own shame by not being transparent with the kids. And that shame filters through. It becomes like, familial trauma that filters through to the kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's painful to watch. And I don't really work with, I maybe at a push 16, younger than that, I don't really do. But I will refer to colleagues. But essentially, it's a process of reparenting and reprogramming that needs to happen. But I see it. I mean, my son is 18, and I'll record a video that it's amazing. I feel like it's life changing, and I share this video with him, like it's amazing. And he was like, "How many likes did you get?" I'm like, "Who gives a shit?"
I know I made something that I thought was so profound that it was well produced and I was very proud of it. I'm like, I showed it to my kids and they were like, all right. And that was it, and you mentioned something that I struggle with in just being a witness to, and that, people aren't going to change unless they want to change. And we can preach and preach and talk and yell and all those things and think that we're all high and mighty. And I come in hot sometimes and I get on my soapbox and I like to say, what's up, fuckers? Like, and it falls on deaf ears. But you mentioned that parenting by their own shame and the trauma that produces that shame, and I refer to it as generational trauma. And I was parented that way, but I grew up like rural country kid, raising cows, hunting, chopping firewood, all of that kind of stuff. And so, and that was where both of my both family lines come from, is this like rural existence, which is very hard and very violent. And there's a lot of emotion that has to be held inside, or, bad things would happen. And so that was by extension how my brother and I were parented, but I was able to cut through that. And now I reframed it for myself, is that the generations back of my family, all those things that happened to them, happened for me in a way that now I can take that and I can honor their existence by using all of those fun gifts that I was given, and use that to at least share these stories in hopes that it might help somebody, or actually use them to help somebody see things in a different way that I hear so many parents talk about their kids in school and how they don't want to expose them to this or that, or sports this or sports that, because of their own personal experiences. And that they're, I don't know, I guess robbing, their children of experiences. That why not let them try it? And if it's for them, then awesome. And if it's not, it's not. It's okay. And I don't know. I guess this is me on my soapbox. I just see it as being like a real issue, and that like a natural sense of your own curiosity and personal bravery is being like, cut off. And that's going to really limit the way that you see the world and ultimately see yourself. And I just see it, in 10, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to have so many depressed, anxious people that don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I agree with you. I think that life is going to fuck your children up.
Oh man.
And so your job as a parent is not to protect them from that.
No.
But to help them learn how resilient they actually are and how competent they are to be able to deal with life effectively. That's really what we want to teach our children. And I think parents miss that. They think their job is to protect their children. And so, I think that how do we teach our children that is we let them get to know themselves.
Exactly.
Not based on other opinions of, from other people, but rather on, oh, I noticed that you were really kind to that other kid right now. That's amazing. Well done to you. Or, I noticed how well you really listened when your brother was telling you what a difficult day he had. And so we start pointing out these qualities that our children start to learn, oh, I have all of these skills, and those are the things that are going to help me live my life. Otherwise, we live terrified, like feeling like we can't actually cope. And that's why we land up medicating in whichever way, shape, or form, whether it's scrolling for hours on social media or whether it's like snorting lines of cocaine. For me, it's one and the same. It's an avoidance of life, and it comes from a place of feeling incompetent to deal with life on life's terms. So yeah, I struggle sometimes to think about what's actually coming our way.
I know, I do too, and it overwhelms me. I look at my little family, the four of us, and I'm really proud of who we are. Relationships and parenting are incredibly difficult. And it's never easy. And there's going to be, days when everybody's pissed off at one another. But I know that in this little family, when the chips are down, we will rally together, and we're very resilient and strong. And the reason that we are is because we have worked very hard at that. And, with one of my kids, I'm like, hey, don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you have a question in class, and don't trust your gut, right? Like whatever you're feeling, just lean into that and learn how to trust that, because you'll find out now is when you learn like, oh, okay, well, I was wrong in feeling or thinking that way, or I should not necessarily wrong, but I will see things differently now because I allowed myself to feel and react to that, because that's a very valuable tool in life. I mean, when I hit the world at 18, I was it was, I didn't know what was up and what was down, and I had no confidence. I was so ill prepared. And then, I found alcohol, and that changed that. But, I guess we could look at it this way. I had to look at all of the people out there that are going to need help, that I know already need it, but based even on what we're just talking about, the collective pool of clients or a marketplace is going to be massive. And specifically here in the US, there's lots of federal funding that is being cut, and a huge chunk of that goes to services for addiction and recovery and mental health. And we're going to have a sea of people that are going to be in turmoil and not know what to do. And it's important to have voices like yours, like mine, and like as many people as we can to let people know that, hey, it's okay. Like, we can help you figure this out. So I commend you on.
Thank you. And you.
Thank you. Thank you. I've really enjoyed this. This has been awesome. I hope you've had fun with this, because I feel like we had a really good conversation.
It was great. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we depart, why don't you give a little plug for yourself, your services, what you do, how people can find you, and all of that.
Sure. So I think that I've got a few options of what I do and how people can find me. My main business is Nikki Munitz and Associates, and I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching. I also train people how to do what I do. So if you're wanting to be a self-esteem counselor, I also teach people about that. Everything is based around self-esteem development. And then I've got 2 inpatient facilities here in South Africa, Sandhurst Manor. So often people come from overseas because it's a lot more cost effective here to come out to treatment. And if anyone needs help, guidance, support, that's what I do. And I'm here anytime. And I really love this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll make sure that all of the information that you just mentioned is in the show notes so people can easily find you that way. So, Nikki, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really enjoyed it. And if you're up for it, we should do it again sometime.
I'd love to.
Thanks. All right. Horses, heroin, prison, horses, book, and horses. That was my conversation with Nikki Munitz. She is just an absolute joy. I had a great conversation with her off mic, and I cannot speak highly enough about her. Please do check out her book, her website. I'll have all of that in the show notes for you to link to, but please do reach out to her, give her all the support you can, because she is out there doing the work. She's the real thing. And it was an absolute pleasure to speak with her. And do check out limbic.org. Keep checking back and find me on the socials. I'm doing my best to get involved with that, but 2026 is going to be the year that we are going to get out there and we are going to get our hands dirty when it comes to helping people who need it. People who are suffering with any kind of addiction right now. Resources are going away, man. They're going away. And it's going to come down to us being able to have a hand available to help them out. And, to put the word out there, to get out there in front of people, in the ears of people. And it does take a lot of work, and I'm doing it, and I'm really happy and grateful to be able to do it, but I cannot do this alone. So any way that you can help other people, please do. And if you have ideas or suggestions on topics or guests, or you just want to ask me some questions, you can find me at chad@soberchad.com, chad@soberchad.com. All right, everybody, please be kind and loving to each other. Be kind and loving to your neighbors, okay? You just might relate to them more than you think, okay? Let's set the bullshit aside, because we all ultimately want the same thing. Cut out the noise, get to the heart of the matter, and we can get back to listening and helping each other, okay? It's very important, all right? Be kind and loving to yourself. This is most important. Find that self-esteem. Find the courage to give yourself some self-love and a hug, because you deserve it. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. Please be well. Please take care of yourselves. And I will talk to you next time.